Monday afternoon, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is making 2 stops in Wisconsin today with just over a week until Election Day. Democratic vice presidential nominee Walz is in Manitowoc and Waukesha. In Manitowoc this morning, Walz criticized former President Donald Trump's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic.
His mismanagement of COVID, by the end of his presidency, he had wiped out more than half of the manufacturing jobs that had been created in the previous decade. He was asleep at the wheel while China seized the advantage, and now he says we should just let China dominate the industries of the future. That's who this guy is.
Former President Donald Trump's running mate is also in Wisconsin today. Ohio Senator J.D. Vance is in Wausau and Racine. Vance is encouraging Wisconsinites to get out and vote right away, and is promoting Trump's plan to eliminate taxes on Social Security, overtime, and tips.
Let's get back to policies that are going to lower the cost of groceries, lower the cost of gasoline, and make the American dream affordable again. Let's get back to the leadership of Donald J. Trump.
As for other upcoming visits, today First Lady Dr. Jill Biden and wife of Governor Walz, Gwen Walz, will be in La Crosse. Vice President Kamala Harris will be in Wisconsin on Wednesday, holding a rally at the University of Wisconsin's Madison campus. She is expected to be joined by several musical artists who will be performing at the event. On the Republican side, the Team Trump on tour is making a stop in Eau Claire today with South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. Former President Donald Trump will be in the Badger State on Wednesday as well for a rally up in Green Bay. He is expected to be joined by former Packers Hall of Famer Brett Favre.